So I was thinking about this verse. Got it several weeks ago. Had lots of windshield time lately. 14 hours to Texas and back, and down to annual conference and back. So lots of time to think about this verse and to try and think about what it is I wanted to talk about today. And the first thing that comes up to me every time I read it is, of course, the storm, right? This is a big storm. It must be a big storm because the disciples are terrified. Some of the filled with fear, terrified. Some call it a gale force wind. Some commentaries said it might even been hurricane-esque. I mean, these were, several of them anyway, fishermen. This is not their first trip on the Sea of Galilee. They'd been there before. They'd been there at night. They were familiar with the area. Surely had been in storms at sea before. No reason to be concerned for just a regular storm, right? This one must have been a doozy. Must have been a big storm. Reminds me of the first storm that I got when I was in Texas. I was stationed down at Fort Hood. Being a born and raised Kansas boy, I love storms. Jamie, you asked, I love a good thunderstorm. I like watching them roll in. I like just the smell of them as they come through, the look of them across the plains. So I'm in Texas. I've been there, I don't know, a couple of months probably. And where I'm at in the barracks is wide open. It looks out onto the motor pool, which is just a big parking lot where we park the tanks and Humvees and stuff. So it's wide open, huge area. Middle of Texas, Fort Hood. So it's plains-esque. Big view. So I can see the storm rolling in, and I'm ready for it. I've been now in basic and AIT for about 16 weeks. Haven't down in Georgia, so I haven't seen a good thunderstorm in months. Missed all of summer, so I missed the good storms here in Kansas. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I had some friends. One of the interesting parts about the military is seeing the groups or the individuals that gather from all kinds of different areas in the U.S. So there are several guys walking around scared. I mean, terrified. Some of them are big dudes, just got out of basic training. They're in the best shape of their lives. The U.S. government says they are fine to handle a weapon, and they're scared of this thunderstorm. They're walking around telling people, this storm is coming, you need to take shelter. And they come to my room, and I have a drink and a chair outside, and I'm getting ready to sit and watch the storm. They weren't quite sure what to make of that, and I said, well, I'm from Kansas. We hear tornado watch, and that means go outside and watch the tornado. That's what we do, right? So I'm ready. The storm is coming in. The clouds are really starting to build. The wind's coming through. I can smell the rain coming. The rain starts hitting, and it comes on us pretty good. It's blowing pretty good. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and it's gone. The sun is shining, blue skies. I mean, I was incredibly disappointed. I couldn't believe it. Here I was, ready for an evening of entertainment, and it was gone. Blew right through. I don't know, maybe it's a Texas thing. I never did see a good storm. I was down there 3 years. I never did see a good thunderstorm. I wonder if that's kind of how it felt for the disciples. I mean, we don't know how long they waited to wake up Jesus, but clearly the storm ended abruptly, right? Christ wakes up and says, silence, and everything goes to a great calm, the calm after the storm. Now, Jesus Christ doesn't need me to defend him by any means, but can you blame him for sleeping? I mean, he's not worried. He has no concern. Look at the day he had. When we go back a few verses, we see he started out talking to the Pharisees in the synagogue that day. He'd given at least 2 different sermons that day to large groups that had come to see him. One of them tells us they were so large that he got pushed offshore and had to speak from a boat just to have room to actually be able to speak. So outrageous were the words and the ministry that he was sharing that his family at some point that day came to seize him because they thought he was crazy. It was a busy day. No wonder he was tired. Not to mention, he knows what's coming up, right? He calls them to go across the sea because when they get there, the next morning, what's going to happen is he's going to cast out this group of demons we know only as legion, cast them into the pigs, and the pigs run off the shore. That's where he's going. That's what's coming up the next morning. So he's got to rest up. I've never done it, but I'd imagine casting out a legion of demons takes a little bit of energy. So he's got to get some rest, right? What I like about that part, what touches me about that part is he was tired. It speaks to me of the humanness of Christ. That God, the creator of all, came down and was so enfleshed, was so human, that he was tired. He needed to sleep. He understands tired. He understands the need for rest. He understands fear. He understands these things that we face when we face the storms in our lives. And how often is it that we face those storms? That we face those storms and we call out and it seems like God is asleep at the wheel. Where are you? Christ is the one that called them onto the water, right? Said, we need to go. Let's get on our boats. We need to cross the sea. So here we are. We're doing what we are called to do. We're trying to follow what we have been called to do, and we are reaching out on our path, and we face a storm in our calling, and we reach out and say, God, where are you? And it seems he's asleep. We've been there. And what does Christ say? Be still. I got this. Don't you have faith yet? In the storms that we have faced in our lives, over and over and over again, what do we get in response? Be still. I got you. To be reminded that we are in his hands, that Christ loves us, that what we need is just a little bit of faith. Be still. I got this. Don't you have faith yet? Haven't I showed you over and over and over again that I will always be there? That my promises are true? That all these things that I've said to you about faith and about love is always true. Have faith. Be still. My challenge for you this week is twofold because it depends on where you're at. For some of you, maybe you're still on the shore. Maybe you have not yet been called to the water or not yet gotten on the boat to go out to sea. So if that's where you are, then I challenge you to get on the boat. Listen to that call and seek it out. Get on the boat. Get out in the water. For some of you, maybe you're in the water and you're facing a storm. A little bit scary. Kind of feels like I'm praying, I'm doing what God asked me to do, and I'm not getting anything in return. So my challenge to you, if you're in that storm, have faith. Be still. God's got this. All glory be to God. Amen.